The calm before the storm, a Viking's rest. Eirik sat by the edge of the fjord, the cold water gently lapping against the rocks below. The sky was painted with soft hues of twilight, and the distant hum of the sea whispered a quiet song. His hands rested on his knees, steady and calm, as if waiting for the night to unfold its peace. Beside him, Sigrid leaned back against a weathered wooden post, her eyes tracing the slow dance of the northern lights overhead. The colors shimmered softly, casting a gentle glow across the quiet landscape. The world was still, and for a moment, all the weight of their journeys seemed to fall away. Eirik took a slow breath, feeling the cool air fill his lungs. "The sea is calm tonight," he said softly, his voice low and steady. Sigrid nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "It is the calm before the storm, but tonight we rest." Together, they watched as the stars emerged one by one, their light weaving a tapestry of silence and serenity. The crackling fire beside them flickered, its warmth a gentle presence against the chill of the evening. The distant call of seabirds echoed faintly, blending with the rhythmic crashing of waves on the shore. Eirik closed his eyes, letting the sounds wash over him like a soothing balm. His mind began to drift, carried on the slow current of the night. Sigrid's breath slowed, matching the gentle rhythm of the sea. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, feeling the steady pulse of calm that surrounded them. The world felt vast and endless, yet in this quiet moment, it held them gently, like a cradle rocked by the tides. Time slipped away, leaving only the soft murmur of water and the shimmering dance of light above. Eirik opened his eyes and met Sigrid's gaze. "Rest is a warrior's true strength," he murmured. Sigrid nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "And in rest we prepare for whatever comes." The night deepened, folding around them like a velvet cloak. The mist thickened softly around them, veiling the trees and river in a silvery hush. Moonlight filtered through in soft beams, diffused and dreamy, casting the world in a quiet, enchanted glow. The shapes of the forest blurred at the edges, as if they, too, were drifting into a dream. Eirik and Sigrid remained still, their hands gently clasped, their breaths slow and in rhythm. In the stillness, the river sounded almost like a voice, low and comforting, speaking in a language older than words. It murmured to the stones beneath its surface, to the roots of the trees, to the sky above, and to the weary souls who had come to rest beside it. The ground beneath them was soft and steady, the moss thick like a woven blanket. Each heartbeat felt slower now, as if their bodies had joined the rhythm of the forest itself. There was no sense of urgency here, no past or future, only the deep calm of this moment, and the comfort of knowing they were part of something greater, older, and infinitely gentle. In the fog-draped woods, even the trees seemed to lean closer, not intruding, but protecting, watching over the sleeping land with patience and grace. The night creatures had long gone quiet. Only the faint rustle of mist curling through the underbrush, and the ever-constant voice of the river remained. Sigrid exhaled slowly, her voice like a breath caught in the silence. "This place, it feels like it remembers," Eirik responded without opening his eyes. "It does. Not with thoughts, but with stillness. With peace." A hush followed, long, slow, sacred. Above them, the stars shone on, their ancient light untouched by the veil of mist. Each one a whisper in the vastness of the sky. The northern lights shimmered faintly still, their hues now muted, barely visible, like the final brushstrokes of a dream fading into sleep. The river curved gently beyond the clearing, its waters turning into a darker stretch between low banks, where the trees closed in and the world seemed to fold. Here, even the hardest memories dissolved, smoothed and softened by time and silence. The forest, it seemed, asked for nothing but presence. It made no demands, required no answers. It only offered space and peace. Beside him, Sigrid remained quiet, her breathing deep and even. A single pine cone had fallen nearby, landing gently on a patch of moss. The tiny sound it made was clear in the stillness, as if the forest acknowledged even the smallest shifts. Everything mattered, yet nothing was rushed. The river's song deepened as it passed over a shallow bend nearby, the sound lower and fuller now, like a voice humming just beneath the surface of the world. It wasn't a melody meant to stir or awaken, it was a rhythm meant to rest inside of, to drift with. The kind of sound that made eyelids heavy and heart slow. Eirik let his hand fall into the cool grass beside him, fingers brushing against the edge of a fern. The leaves responded by trembling just slightly, as if greeting him in silence. The ground was soft here, layered with needles and loam and centuries of fallen leaves. It was a bed made by time, welcoming all who needed rest. The forest above remained still. No breeze stirred. No bird called. Even the owl had grown quiet. It was as if the entire world had paused, not asleep, but holding its breath in a long, peaceful sigh. And then, slowly, Eirik opened his eyes. He looked up at the trees, their dark shapes stretching into the misty sky, branches cradling the stars. The sight was so beautiful, so vast, and yet so gentle that it filled him with a quiet awe. He didn't need to speak. There was nothing more to say. Everything that needed to be known was already here, in the hush of the forest, the flow of the river, the warmth beside him. He reached for Sigurd's hand, finding it easily in the dark. Without a word, they held on. The river flowed on. The mist rose higher, and the night, ancient and endless, wrapped them in silence once more. Over the water, a long, echoing sound that melted into the night like a memory. The river responded with a gentle splash, as if acknowledging the song, echoing it with its own soft reply. The siblings remained still, their thoughts drifting like leaves caught in a current. The forest around them was hushed and waiting, as if listening. The rhythm of the river, slow and eternal, lulled them deeper into stillness. Their breaths, slow and even, became part of the world's quiet rhythm, two heartbeats floating within a sea of calm. And the river kept flowing. Always flowing. Not with urgency, but with purpose. Its path carved not by force, but by time, just as peace is not found in escape, but in surrender. Here, in this deep, sacred quiet, under a sky stitched with stars and framed by the arms of trees, Eirik and Sigrid rested. Not just their bodies, but their spirits. They had journeyed far, but now they were home, within the forest, beside the water, under the sky. Home, in the truest sense. And still, the river flowed on. A gentle mist began to gather over the river, curling low across the water's surface like a veil being drawn between the waking world and dreams. It rose in thin tendrils between the tree trunks and drifted slowly over the mossy banks, wrapping everything in a soft, silver hush. The stars above remained bright, but their light now shimmered through the thin fog like lanterns seen from afar, distant, quiet, serene. Eirik lay still, his body nestled into the warmth of the earth, the scent of pine and damp moss soothing, familiar. His eyes remained closed, but his mind floated gently, neither fully awake nor fully asleep. In this twilight space, his thoughts moved like the river beside him, slow, reflective, untroubled. He remembered long voyages over dark waters, the crash of waves and the weight of armor. He remembered cold mornings, firelit camps, and the ache of weariness that never quite left his bones. And yet, here, none of it felt heavy. The night deepened, the forest growing quiet save for the constant, soothing murmur of the river. Slowly, sleep crept over them like the soft fall of dusk, drawing their minds into a world where worries faded and only calm remained. And so, cradled by earth and sky, carried by the river's timeless song, Eirik and Sigrid surrendered to rest, steady, peaceful, and held forever in the gentle flow of the night. The moon climbed higher into the sky, casting a silver glow that shimmered across the water and painted the forest in pale light. Shadows stretched long and soft across the ground, moving gently with the sway of the trees. The breeze had quieted now, settling into a calm hush that wrapped the land in stillness. Eirik stirred slightly, shifting in the moss with a quiet breath. He could feel the coolness of the night air against his face, the comfort of the earth beneath him, and the steady, slow rise and fall of his sister's breathing beside him. Everything was quiet, yet alive. Every sound, every flicker of light, felt sacred in its stillness. The stars above blinked in their slow, ancient rhythm, and the soft glow of the aurora drifted like silk through the sky. Time felt distant, almost unreal, like a forgotten dream. Here in this place, between waking and sleep, between thought and dream, Eirik felt a peace deeper than any he had ever known. Sigrid's voice, barely audible, reached him like a thread of warmth. "Do you think the river remembers us?" she asked. Eirik didn't open his eyes. He smiled gently, his voice a low murmur. "I think it remembers everything. Not in words or images, but in the way it moves. The way it holds the land together. Like how we remember in silence." She was quiet for a while, then whispered, "Maybe that's why it calms us. Because it carries our stories, even when we forget how to tell them." A soft breeze rustled the pine needles above, like an unseen hand brushing through the branches. Somewhere in the distance, a loon called out. Eirik closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the forest wash over him. The rustle of leaves stirred by the breeze, the distant call of an owl, the soft splash of fish breaking the surface of the water. Each sound was a thread in the tapestry of the night, woven together in a quiet symphony that calmed the restless edges of his mind. Sigrid's hand found his, their fingers intertwining, a steady warmth amidst the cool air. She spoke softly, her voice a soothing murmur that blended with the night. "We carry so much with us, memories, hopes, fears, but here, by the river, it feels like the world exhales, and we can finally breathe." Eirik nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing as he leaned into the stillness. "The river teaches us to let go, to flow around obstacles, to keep moving even when the path isn't clear. We are not meant to fight every current. Sometimes, the strength is in surrender." They lay together beneath the sprawling sky, the earth beneath them firm and comforting. The night wrapped around them like a gentle cloak, shielding them from the worries of tomorrow and the echoes of yesterday. In this moment, all that existed was the steady pulse of life, the river's endless journey, the whisper of the trees, the beat of their own hearts. A shooting star streaked silently overhead, a fleeting spark of light that seemed to hold 1,000 wishes. Sigrid smiled softly, her gaze following its path. "May our dreams be carried safely on the river's current, wherever they may lead." Eirik's voice was barely more than a breath. "And may we find peace in the journey, no matter how winding the way." The night deepened, the forest growing quiet save for the constant, soothing murmur of the river. Slowly, sleep crept over them like the soft fall of dusk, drawing their minds into a world where worries faded and only calm remained. And so, cradled by earth and sky, carried by the river's timeless song, Eirik and Sigrid surrendered to rest, steady, peaceful, edge, their bodies resting against the cool earth, the soft moss cushioning them like a gentle embrace. Above, the stars scattered across the sky like ancient jewels, their light flickering with the quiet wisdom of countless ages. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, mingled with the subtle sweetness of wildflowers resting beneath the shadows. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, setting them whispering in a language older than words. Somewhere deep in the forest, an owl hooted softly, its call echoing as a lullaby in the stillness. Eirik's eyes traced the slow ripple of the river, watching as it wound through the landscape, ever patient, ever persistent, carrying with it the stories of the land, the echoes of the past, and the hopes for the future. He thought of their ancestors, those who had walked these very woods, who had braved storms and hardship with unwavering courage. Their strength lived on, carried quietly in the soil beneath his fingers, in the air that brushed against his skin. Sigrid reached out to clasp his hand, the warmth a gentle tether in the vastness of the night. "The river teaches us," she whispered, "that strength is not always loud or forceful. Sometimes it is the quiet flow that shapes the world." Eirik nodded, his heart steadying with the truth of her words. "Like the river, we endure, not by rushing or resisting, but by flowing with patience and purpose." Together, they closed their eyes and breathed deeply, drawing the forest's calm into their souls. The worries and battles of the day dissolved into the night's quiet, replaced by a profound stillness that seemed to stretch beyond time itself. The stars above shimmered softly, their ancient light weaving through the trees, wrapping the siblings in a blanket of peace. The river's murmur grew tender, a lullaby carried on the wind, soothing their spirits. their bodies resting against the cool earth, the soft moss cushioning them like a gentle embrace. Above, the stars scattered across the sky like ancient jewels, their light flickering with the quiet wisdom of countless ages. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, mingled with the subtle sweetness of wildflowers resting beneath the shadows. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, setting them whispering in a language older than words. Somewhere deep in the forest, an owl hooted softly, its call echoing as a lullaby in the stillness. Irik's eyes traced the slow ripple of the river, watching as it wound through the landscape, ever patient, ever persistent, carrying with it the stories of the land, the echoes of the past, and the hopes for the future. He thought of their ancestors, those who had walked these very woods, who had braved storms and hardship with unwavering courage. Their strength lived on, carried quietly in the soil beneath his fingers, in the air that brushed against his skin. Sigrid reached out to clasp his hand, the warmth a gentle tether in the vastness of the night. "The river teaches us," she whispered, "that strength is not always loud or forceful. Sometimes it is the quiet flow that shapes the world." Irik nodded, his heart steadying with the truth of her words. "Like the river, we endure, not by rushing or resisting, but by flowing with patience and purpose." Together, they closed their eyes and breathed deeply, drawing the forest's calm into their souls. The worries and battles of the day dissolved into the night's quiet, replaced by a profound stillness that seemed to stretch beyond time itself. The stars above shimmered softly, their ancient light weaving through the trees, wrapping the siblings in a blanket of peace. The river's murmur grew tender, a lullaby carried on the wind, soothing their spirits. Upon the rippling surface of the river, "The night is a quiet guardian," she whispered. "It holds our fears, our hopes, and cradles them gently until the dawn." Irik smiled faintly, feeling the truth of her words settle in his heart. "And in the stillness of night, we find strength to face the days ahead." The siblings sat in companionable silence, letting the peaceful embrace of the night seep into every fiber of their beings. The cool air was crisp but soothing, wrapping them in a gentle cocoon of calm. Above, the stars twinkled steadily, their light unchanging and eternal, like the steady pulse of the river beside them. Irik reached out, brushing his fingers through the cool water. The ripples spread slowly, reflecting the silver moon and the shadowed silhouettes of the trees. "Like the river, we moved forward, sometimes swift, sometimes slow, but always onward." Sigrid nodded, her eyes closing as sleep began to claim her. "And just as the river rests in quiet pools along its journey, so too must we find moments to rest and renew." The forest seemed to sigh softly around them, a breath of ancient wisdom carried on the wind. In that moment, all worries faded, replaced by the gentle certainty that no matter what storms might come, the night's calm would return, and with it, the promise of peace. Irik and Sigrid leaned back, their heads resting against the cool bark of the log, eyes closing as they surrendered to the tender pull of sleep. The river's lullaby carried them gently into dreams, where the past and future flowed together, and the heart found its true home in the endless, flowing present. And beneath the vast, star-studded sky, wrapped in the quiet song of the earth and water, they rested, steady, calm, and forever connected to the unending rhythm of the world around them. The forest deepened as night wrapped its velvet cloak around the land, and the river's steady song became the heartbeat of the world. Irik and Sigrid remained near the waters. "Carry us, if only for a time." The first stars began to appear, twinkling faintly through the branches above. The forest seemed to hold its breath, wrapped in the tender hush of twilight. The river's song became more pronounced, a soothing lullaby that filled the space between them and the sky. Irik leaned back, closing his eyes, feeling the cool air brush against his skin and the steady beat of his own heart syncing with the natural world around him. The worries of the day melted away, replaced by a calm clarity that settled deep within. Sigrid lay down beside him, her hand resting lightly on the earth, fingers curling into the moss. Together, they breathed in the peacefulness, carried gently by the river's endless flow and the quiet wisdom of the ancient forest. As the night deepened, the world outside slipped away, leaving only the soft embrace of the night and the unspoken promise that tomorrow would come, carried on the same steady current that had brought them here, and that would carry them forward still. The moon rose slowly over the horizon, casting a pale silver light that filtered softly through the trees, illuminating the river's winding path like a delicate ribbon of glass. Eirik and Sigrid remained seated on the mossy log, their bodies relaxed, minds quiet, carried by the soothing rhythm of the night. The forest around them seemed alive with gentle whispers, the rustle of leaves, the occasional flutter of wings as a night bird glided silently overhead, the faint murmur of the water weaving its endless song. Eirik opened his eyes and gazed upward, tracing the constellations that glittered like ancient runes carved across the velvet sky. Each star held stories of their ancestors, of voyages across stormy seas, of battles fought and peace sought. In that vastness, he found a humble comfort, a reminder that their place in the world was both small and precious. Sigrid shifted slightly, her breath slow and steady as she watched the moonlight dance. Eirik nodded, his eyes tracing the path of the river as it meandered through the valley. The river does not rush. It flows with purpose and patience, carving its way through the earth over time. So must we move through our lives, steady, deliberate, and calm. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that stretched across the land, the two siblings rose and began their descent from the ridge. The forest welcomed them back with the cool shade of towering pines and the soft crunch of pine needles beneath their feet. The air was fragrant with earth and wood, grounding them further in the moment. They walked slowly, allowing the peacefulness of the forest to fill their hearts. The river's gentle murmur guided their steps, a constant companion whispering of endurance and quiet strength. The soft glow of twilight began to settle, painting the sky in shades of lavender and rose, promising rest and renewal. Eirik glanced at Sigrid, a serene calm in his eyes. No matter what storms may come, we have this, the land, the river, and each other. In that, we find unshakable peace. Sigrid smiled warmly, the bond between them as steady and enduring as the ancient trees around them. Together, we flow forward, steady and sure, like the river that carries us home. And so, beneath the soft embrace of the fading light, they continued their journey, carried forward by the timeless song of the earth, the steady rhythm of the river, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing they are never truly alone. The forest around them deepened as Eirik and Sigrid continued their slow walk along the winding path beside the river. Towering pines stretched their limbs high into the sky, their needles whispering secrets, as the gentle breeze passed through. Shafts of late afternoon sun filtered through the canopy, casting warm, dappled patterns on the soft earth beneath their feet. The scent of damp moss and pine resin filled the air, grounding them in the present moment. It connects us, to the past, to each other, and to the future. Eirik's eyes met hers, warm and steady. And it teaches us to move forward with patience, to carry both courage and calm in our hearts. Together, they sat on a smooth rock at the ridge's edge, letting the gentle breeze wash over them, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and distant pine. The river's murmur rose faintly on the wind, a constant, soothing presence. As the sun traced its path across the sky, casting long shadows and bathing the valley in golden light, Eirik and Sigrid remained still, two souls bound by blood and by the silent lessons of the earth. In this shared moment of peace, they found the quiet strength to face whatever journey awaited, carried onward by the endless flow of the river and the enduring whisper of the land. The gentle breeze stirred the leaves overhead, sending a soft cascade of golden light filtering through the branches. Eirik and Sigrid remained seated on the ridge, their gazes fixed on the winding river below, its waters shimmering like liquid silver in the warm afternoon sun. The vastness of the landscape stretched out before them, a tapestry of forests, hills, and distant mountains, all quietly alive with the steady pulse of nature's timeless rhythm. Eirik breathed deeply, the crisp air filling his lungs with a clarity that seemed to reach deep into his soul. The trials of the past, the battles, the storms, the uncertainty, felt distant here, softened by the serene beauty of the land. He could almost hear the whispers of their ancestors carried on the wind, voices woven into the rustling leaves and the gentle flow of the river. Sigrid reached out, her fingers brushing the soft moss that clung to the rock beneath them. "This place has held us for generations," she murmured, her voice barely more than the rustle of the breeze. "It is a sanctuary, one that reminds us to slow down, to breathe, and to remember who we are beneath all the noise. The river's gentle murmur accompanied Eirik and Sigrid as they walked deeper into the forest, the sunlight dappling through the thick canopy above in soft, shifting patterns. The air was cool and fresh, scented faintly with pine and moss, carrying the subtle sounds of the woodland, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, the distant call of a hawk circling high above, the occasional drip of water from leaves heavy with morning dew. Eirik's gaze lingered on the play of light and shadow around them, his thoughts drifting with the slow, steady rhythm of the river at their side. This place, so far from the clamor of their past struggles, held a calmness that seemed to seep into his very bones. Each breath filled him with a deep, grounding peace, as if the forest itself was sharing its strength. Sigrid walked beside him, her steps light but purposeful, her eyes bright with quiet wonder. She reached out to touch the rough bark of a towering spruce, feeling the cool texture beneath her fingers. "These trees have stood here for centuries," she said softly. "They have weathered countless storms, yet they remain rooted, steady and strong." Eirik nodded, his thoughts turning inward. "We too must be like the trees. Endure what comes, but never lose hold of what grounds us." The path wound upward now, climbing gently toward a ridge that overlooked the broad expanse of the valley below. As they reached the crest, the trees parted, revealing a breathtaking view. The river snaked through the landscape like a silver thread, glinting in the sunlight. Beyond it, rolling hills gave way to distant mountains whose peaks were still dusted with snow. They paused, taking in the vast stillness that stretched before them. The world seemed impossibly wide here, yet filled with a comforting order, a quiet harmony that balanced motion and rest, light and shadow, earth and sky. Sigrid let out a soft sigh, a smile touching her lips. "No matter where we go, this land holds us." As they walked side by side along the winding path, the sky above bloomed with the deep blue of midday, and the sun warmed the earth beneath their feet. The world was alive and full, but their hearts beat steady and calm, carried by the unending flow of the river and the unspoken promise of the forest. With every step, they moved closer not only to their next destination but to the quiet understanding that strength and peace are woven together, like the river's currents and the roots of the mighty trees, flowing forever onward, steady and sure. The path beside the river wound gently through the forest, carpeted with fallen leaves that whispered softly beneath Eirik and Sigrid's footsteps. The siblings walked in companionable silence, each absorbed in the quiet rhythm of the woods around them. Shafts of golden sunlight pierced through the canopy, casting mottled patterns on the ground and warming their faces with gentle caresses. The air was crisp and filled with the scents of pine needles and damp earth, mingled with the faint sweetness of wildflowers that peeked shyly from the underbrush. A distant songbird's call echoed faintly, a solitary note that seemed to rise and fall with the flow of the river itself. Eirik paused beside a small clearing, where the river widened into a peaceful pool. The water here was crystal clear, revealing smooth stones beneath its surface, worn down by years of patient currents. He knelt down and dipped his hand into the cool flow, feeling the steady pulse of life moving endlessly onward. Sigrid joined him, sitting on a moss-covered rock at the edge of the water. She traced the patterns of ripples that spread outward from Eirik's touch, watching them fade slowly into the calm surface. "The river never hurries," she said softly. "It knows the value of patience, of steady progress." Eirik's thoughts drifted like the soft mist curling between the trees. He recalled the harsh winters, the biting winds that tore through sails and flesh alike, and the fierce battles fought beneath storm-darkened skies. Yet, despite all the turmoil, this place, this quiet grove by the river, held a strength far deeper than any forged in war. It was a strength born of patience, endurance, and the steady pulse of the earth itself. Sigrid, sensing her brother's reflection, opened her eyes and smiled softly. "The earth teaches us much," she said. "It does not rush to grow, nor does it shrink from the seasons. It simply lives, in quiet cycles, resting, growing, blooming, then resting again." Eirik nodded slowly. "We fight so often, but perhaps we forget the power in stillness. The river carves valleys not by force, but by persistence. And the trees stand tall not because they rush to reach the sun, but because they root themselves deep and hold steady." The two sat in silence, wrapped in the gentle embrace of the woods. Somewhere nearby, a small stream babbled softly, weaving its way toward the fjord. The melody blended with the distant call of birds and the rustling of leaves stirred by a light breeze. Each sound was a thread woven into the fabric of the morning, a reminder that life itself was a constant dance between movement and rest. Sigrid's gaze drifted back toward the river that curved gracefully beyond the trees. "Our ancestors sailed these waters," she murmured, "braving storms and unknown horizons. But they always returned home, to this land, to this river, to find balance again." Eirik's lips curved into a small smile. "Perhaps that is the greatest voyage of all, to return to ourselves, to find peace amidst the chaos." They rose slowly, their limbs heavy with the lingering calm of the grove. The river's steady murmur beckoned them forward, a quiet invitation to continue the journey, not just outward across the world, but inward toward the stillness within. As they moved further from the cottage and deeper into the woods, the canopy above thickened, filtering sunlight into soft beams that danced across the forest floor. Here, the earth was rich and dark, dotted with wildflowers still glistening with morning dew. The peace of this place wrapped around them like a protective cloak. Eirik stopped beside an ancient oak, its massive roots twisting deep into the soil. He placed a hand against its bark, feeling the steady heartbeat of the tree, rooted and strong. "In battle we seek courage," he murmured. "But here, in stillness, we find resilience." Sigrid smiled, her hand gently brushing the rough surface beside him. "And in resilience we find peace." They sat together beneath the great tree, letting the forest's quiet embrace settle around their souls. The river's song was distant now, a soft undertone beneath the hum of life in the woods. Their breaths slowed, synced with the steady rhythm of the earth. In that moment, time seemed to stretch and bend, carrying them beyond worry and fear into a realm of calm understanding. The hardships of their past faded like mist, replaced by the quiet certainty of this shared rest. As the day unfolded gently around them, Eirik and Sigrid closed their eyes, surrendering to the deep peace that comes only when the spirit is truly still. And in that stillness, carried on the breath of the forest and the endless flow of the river, they found the strength to face whatever journey lay ahead. The forest around them seemed to breathe with a life of its own, each leaf and twig a part of the vast, quiet symphony that enveloped Eirik and Sigrid. The sunlight filtering through the canopy warmed their faces gently, coaxing their eyes closed as they leaned back against the sturdy trunk of the ancient oak. Time stretched thin here, as if the world itself had slowed to honor this moment of peace. The distant call of seabirds, and the ever-present murmur of the flowing water. In this shared journey, Eirik and Sigrid moved forward together, steady, calm, and prepared for whatever lay beyond the horizon. The river's endless song accompanied them still, a reminder that rest and resilience are parts of the same flow. And so, beneath the wide sky and along the gentle river, their story continued, carried forward by the quiet strength of the land, the water, and the enduring bond between two souls at peace. The morning light deepened, wrapping the fjord in a soft glow that seemed to breathe life into every leaf, every ripple of the water. Eirik and Sigrid moved slowly along the riverbank, their footsteps gentle against the moss-covered stones. The air was crisp, filled with the mingling scents of pine needles, wet earth, and the faint salt of the sea breeze drifting in from the horizon. Eirik paused, reaching out to touch the smooth surface of the river. The water felt cool against his fingers, flowing steady and sure, never hurried yet never still. He watched the current carry fallen leaves downstream, each one a quiet journey, embraced by the river's endless song. Sigrid walked beside him, her eyes bright with the calm clarity that only moments of true rest could bring. "The river does not rush," she said softly. "It trusts its course, knowing the path will reveal itself in time." Eirik nodded, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains where mist still clung to ancient pines. "We could learn much from its patience," he agreed. "Our lives often feel like storms, yet there is strength in flowing steady, in resting when the tide calls for it." The siblings continued their quiet walk, the sounds of the awakening forest weaving around them, a chorus of birdsong, the rustle of small creatures moving through underbrush, the whisper of the wind threading through branches. Every sound was a gentle reminder of the world's slow, persistent pulse. The soft hues of dawn gradually gave way to the gentle light of morning, spilling softly across the fjord and illuminating the calm waters with a golden shimmer. Eirik and Sigrid remained seated on the smooth stones by the river's edge, their bodies still wrapped in the lingering warmth of night's rest. The air was cool but welcoming, carrying the fresh scents of pine, earth, and the faint saltiness of the distant sea. Around them, the world slowly stirred. Birds began their morning songs, their melodies weaving gently through the crisp air, while the river flowed steadily onward, carrying with it the promises of a new day. The willow's branches, still heavy with dew, swayed softly in the morning breeze, casting delicate shadows on the water's surface. Eirik ran his hand along the rough bark of a nearby tree, feeling its age and strength beneath his fingers. Memories of long voyages, fierce battles, and the hardships of the past flickered in his mind but now seemed distant, softened by the peace that surrounded him. The river's quiet persistence reminded him that no matter the storm, the journey continues, and so must he. Sigrid smiled softly, watching the gentle rise and fall of the water. "The river teaches us patience," she murmured, "to move steadily, without haste, trusting that the path will unfold." Eirik nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the shimmering light. "It is in this trust that we find our strength. Not in force or speed, but in the quiet determination to flow onward." Together they rose, the earth beneath their feet firm and familiar. The warmth of the sun grew steadily, its light a gentle invitation to awaken fully to the day ahead. Though the calm of night was fading, the quiet strength it had offered remained within them, a steady flame to guide their steps. As they began to walk along the riverbank, their footsteps light and unhurried, the world around them blossomed with the soft sounds of morning, the rustle of leaves. The watchful glow of the aurora, Eirik and Sigrid surrendered to sleep, their spirits flowing gently on the endless current of the night. The first light of dawn brushed softly against the horizon, painting the sky with gentle hues of pink and gold. Though the night's deep calm still lingered, a new warmth began to stir in the air. Eirik and Sigrid remained still, wrapped in the quiet embrace of the early morning, their bodies resting peacefully after a long night of serene slumber. The river glistened faintly, its surface reflecting the awakening sky, as if it too was preparing for a new journey. The willow branches swayed slowly in the soft breeze, their leaves whispering promises of renewal and hope. Eirik's fingers traced patterns in the cool earth beside him, feeling the steady heartbeat of the land beneath. Memories of storms weathered and battles faced felt distant now, softened by the gentleness of the present moment. In this calm, he found strength, a quiet resilience that came not from force, but from rest. Sigrid opened her eyes, the pale light revealing the peacefulness etched softly across her face. She breathed deeply, savoring the crisp morning air tinged with the scent of pine and fresh water. The world was still unfolding, slow and deliberate, just like the river that carried them through the night. "The day will come," she whispered, "but for now, we remain here, still and safe, cradled by the earth and sky." Eirik smiled, his voice low and steady. "We rest now so that we may face tomorrow with steady hearts." Together they rose slowly, the calm strength of the night carried within them like a steady flame. The river's endless song followed them as they stepped forward, a gentle reminder that life moves on, steady, sure, and full of quiet grace. The soft rustle of leaves mingled with the distant murmur of the river, creating a gentle symphony that filled the quiet night. Eirik and Sigrid lay side by side on the smooth earth, their bodies relaxed and minds unwinding, carried away by the slow, steady rhythm of the world around them. Above, the sky stretched wide and endless, dotted with stars that blinked softly like distant lanterns. The northern lights continued their graceful dance, casting shifting shades of emerald and lavender across the dark canvas, their glow a tender reminder of nature's quiet wonders. Eirik's gaze drifted toward the horizon, where the river met the sea in a seamless embrace. He felt the vastness of the night settle over him, soothing away the worries of countless battles and long journeys. Here, in the stillness, he found a profound peace, one that needed no words. Sigrid traced a slow circle in the dirt beside her with a slender finger, the motion steady and calming. She breathed deeply, savoring the cool, fragrant air, rich with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. The night wrapped around them like a soft cloak, shielding them from the world's noise. "The river shows us the way," she whispered. "Always moving, always patient, never rushing but never stopping." Eirik nodded slowly, feeling the truth of her words seep into his bones. "We must be like the river, steady in our strength, calm in our purpose." Their breaths fell into rhythm with the night's song, a slow, even cadence that lulled them toward rest. The fire had long since burned low, leaving behind only a faint warmth and glowing embers that pulsed softly like the heartbeat of the earth. As their eyes grew heavy, the river's lullaby carried them gently into the quiet realm between waking and dreaming. In this suspended moment, all was still, all was safe, all was at peace. The night held them close, its ancient song a timeless promise of renewal and rest. And so, beneath the endless stars Eirik and Sigrid surrendered fully to the night, carried gently downstream on the endless current of peace. The river's gentle flow whispered softly against the stones, its endless journey a soothing hymn that eased the mind and quieted the heart. Eirik and Sigrid remained nestled beneath the vast night sky, wrapped in the embrace of the fjord's serene calm. Above them, the northern lights shimmered faintly, casting slow, graceful waves of green and violet across the heavens. Their subtle glow wove a tapestry of light that danced in harmony with the soft murmur of the water below. Eirik's thoughts floated like drifting leaves on the river's surface, memories of distant lands, brave battles, and the steadfast strength of family and home. But tonight those memories softened, folding gently into the present moment's peace. Sigrid breathed in the crisp, pine-scented air, letting it fill her lungs and clear her mind. The cold night pressed softly against her skin, a reminder of the world's quiet majesty, vast and unhurried. "The river moves forward without haste," she whispered. "It carries all things, joy and sorrow alike, and finds its way through every obstacle." Eirik smiled faintly, his gaze resting on the rippling water. "We are like the river then, facing storms with steady hearts, flowing onward toward the calm." Together they lay in silence, their breaths slowing, their bodies sinking deeper into rest. The fire's last embers glowed softly, and the stars overhead shone brighter in the stillness. The world seemed to hold its breath, cradling them gently as they drifted closer to sleep, a sleep deep and untroubled, as timeless as the river's endless song. And so, beneath the silent watch of the night sky and the soothing lullaby of the fjord, Eirik and Sigrid surrendered to rest, carried gently by the peaceful currents of the earth and sky. The soft murmur of the river carried on through the night, a steady rhythm that seemed to pulse in harmony with the quiet breath of the earth. Eirik and Sigrid lay beneath the vast canopy of stars, their bodies still and relaxed, wrapped in the cool embrace of the northern air. The flickering dance of the aurora above cast gentle hues of green and purple across the horizon, painting the sky with colors both soothing and mysterious. It was a silent dance, slow and timeless, inviting the mind to wander and the soul to rest. Eirik's thoughts drifted like the slow currents of the fjord. He remembered the countless nights spent sailing beneath this very sky, the weight of the world pressing down in the heat of battle or the chill of stormy seas. Yet here, in the stillness of this moment, none of that mattered. Only the quiet strength of the night, and the comforting presence of his sister beside him. Sigrid's eyes traced the shapes the stars made, constellations told in whispers from ages past. She felt the pulse of the land beneath her, steady and true, grounding her in a way that words never could. The night air smelled faintly of pine and distant ocean salt, a balm that eased every worry and softened every thought. "The river never rushes," she murmured softly. "It teaches patience, endurance, and calm." Eirik nodded slowly, his gaze lost in the depths of the shimmering water. "We must learn from it, to face what comes with steady hearts, and rest when the time calls for it." Together, they breathed in the silence and the cool air, letting the quiet swell around them like a protective shield. The world outside ceased to exist, leaving only this peaceful island of calm beneath the endless sky. The night's lullaby, carried by the river and the wind, wrapped gently around them. It was a song without words, but full of promise, the promise of renewal, of strength regained, and of dreams yet to come. and as sleep began to pull them deeper into its soft embrace. The fire's ember glow faded completely, leaving only the silver light of the moon to illuminate their resting place. The air grew cooler, but the warmth of companionship held them close. Words had long ceased to be necessary. In the peaceful embrace of the fjord, silence spoke louder than any voice. Eirik's thoughts wandered to the journeys that had brought them here, the rough seas, the distant shores, the battles that tested their resolve. Yet none of those trials seemed so daunting now. Here, beside the quiet river flowing into the vast ocean, he found a sanctuary untouched by time and turmoil. Sigrid reached out, her hand brushing a strand of hair from her face, feeling the cool breeze like a gentle caress. "Do you hear it?" she whispered. "The river's song?" Eirik nodded, his eyes half closed. "It carries us all, our dreams, our hopes, even our fears, and carries them safely away." The calm water reflected the sky's grandeur, each ripple a tender reminder that life's currents flow steadily, even when unseen. As their breathing slowed, synchronized with the gentle pulse of the night, the weight of the world fell away, replaced by a serene lightness. A shooting star traced a fleeting path across the heavens, a silent promise of hope and renewal. Sigrid smiled softly. "May our rest be deep, and our spirits strong when dawn comes." Eirik's voice was a low murmur. "For now, let us be carried by the river's lullaby, quiet, steady, and endless." They lay back together, the earth beneath them firm and comforting, the sky above vast and infinite. The northern winds whispered softly, wrapping them in a gentle embrace as sleep beckoned. In that moment between wakefulness and dreams, the world held its breath, a fragile pause where peace reigned supreme, and the heart found its true home. And so, beneath the watchful stars and the silent song of the river, Eirik and Sigrid surrendered to the night, drifting slowly toward the gentle shores of sleep. Eirik reached out, brushing his fingers against the cool water, watching the ripples spread out in slow circles. Even the mightiest storm begins with a single breath of wind. Tonight, we breathe together in peace. Sigrid nodded, drawing her knees close and wrapping her arms around them. The light danced across her face, softening her features into calm serenity. "May our dreams be carried far, like the river's song." Time seemed to slow, each moment stretching into a gentle eternity. The weight of the world faded, replaced by the simple beauty of being, just two souls embraced by the night, by the land, by the endless sky. Eirik felt his eyes grow heavy, the warmth of the earth beneath him inviting rest. He whispered, "Tomorrow will come, as sure as the tide. But tonight we are still." Sigrid's breath deepened, matching the steady pulse of the night around them. The stars traced ancient paths above, their stories whispered softly into the silence. Together, they surrendered to the quiet, their hearts attuned to the peaceful rhythm of the fjord. And in that stillness, the world held them gently, rocking them as the tides, whispering a lullaby as old as time itself. The night stretched on, its vast silence broken only by the gentle murmurs of nature, the soft rustling of willow branches, the faint splash of water against stone, and the distant call of a lone wolf echoing through the forest. Eirik's chest rose and fell in a slow, steady rhythm, his mind drifting deeper into the calm that enveloped them. Sigrid lay back against the cool earth, eyes tracing the shimmering dance of stars overhead. The northern lights wove their ethereal ribbons across the sky, shifting and flowing like a quiet symphony composed by the cosmos itself. She felt a profound stillness settle within her, as if the universe had paused just for this moment, for her, for Eirik, for the silent night. The fire's glow softened, and the stars shone brighter, guiding them toward the gentle edge of sleep. Their breaths grew slower, hearts steadied, and the world outside faded to a hush. In the quiet, the fjord sang its lullaby, a song of journeys past and the promise of dawn. Eirik's eyes closed fully now, his body sinking into the warmth of the earth beneath him. Sigrid followed, her hand resting lightly on the wood beside her, fingers curling into the grain. They were still, held by the night's embrace, their souls drifting softly on the northern winds. The calm before the storm was theirs to hold, a moment of peace, deep and endless. The stars above twinkled quietly, their light soft as it spilled across the vast sky. The northern lights pulsed gently, hues of green and violet weaving slowly, as if breathing in time with the calm night. Eirik and Sigrid remained by the fjord's edge, wrapped in the silence that only the wilderness could offer. Eirik shifted slightly, feeling the cool stone beneath him. The scent of pine and salt water filled the air, grounding him deeper in the moment. Memories of battles fought and storms weathered softened like distant echoes, replaced now by the present's tender stillness. Sigrid closed her eyes briefly, letting the serenity seep into her bones. She could hear the river's quiet rush mingling with the low sigh of the ocean's waves. Somewhere far away, an owl's hoot punctuated the night, a solitary note carried on the breeze. "The sea carries all things," Eirik said softly. "Our fears, our hopes, and now our rest." Sigrid smiled, opening her eyes to meet his. "It's in these moments of quiet that strength grows. Like the roots of the ancient trees, deep and unshaken." The fire beside them had settled to glowing embers, casting a faint warmth that barely touched the chill settling over the land. But the calm between them was warmer still, a silent promise that the night would keep them safe. Inward. It was a path not meant to be followed now, not in the night, not in the heart. For here, in this part of the journey, there was only rest. And so they remained, two souls wrapped in night and memory, held by the earth and the water, watched over by stars and trees. The forest breathed. The river flowed. And sleep, like a slow-moving tide, carried them deeper into its embrace, where no storm could reach, where no shadow could linger. Only stillness. Only peace. Only the quiet promise of another dawn, far away, waiting. The mist eventually began to thin, lifting like a gentle sigh from the surface of the river. The trees stood motionless, their branches outlined faintly against the first whispers of dawn. A soft blush of color rose on the eastern horizon, rose and amber bleeding gently into the sky, heralding the approach of morning. The river, unchanged and eternal, continued its quiet journey through the woods, catching the earliest light upon its rippling surface. It glistened like liquid glass, moving with grace and patience, unbothered by time. Eirik stirred first, his fingers still loosely wrapped around Sigrid's. His eyes blinked open, not rushed by alarm, but drawn gently by the presence of a new day. The silence around them remained unbroken, warm, watchful, sacred. Sigrid shifted beside him, her breathing deep and even. She did not speak. She didn't need to. Together, they watched the sun rise slowly through the mist-veiled trees. The world was still, but full of promise, of peace, of the quiet strength they had found in rest. They didn't stand. Not yet. They simply remained for a while longer, held in the perfect balance between night and day, between memory and hope. And as the first golden light touched the tops of the trees, the forest seemed to exhale again, inviting the day forward, slowly, kindly. The river's song, steady as ever, welcomed the morning. And so the night came to its end, not with a sound, but with peace.